What's up everybody, I'm HoopsandHipHop and the wait is finally over. The Nintendo Switch was launched yesterday and it's sure to be pretty revolutionary as it acts as both a home and a handheld console. Because of this, many have suspected and it's fairly likely that we will be seeing a main series Pokémon game on the Switch at some point, which would mark the first time that a main series Pokémon game was made for a home console. Pokémon and the Switch is literally a match made in heaven as it provides the power of a home console without compromising the portability of a handheld that is so important for the Pokémon franchise. With this added power, there are so many amazing possibilities that could finally be accomplished within the Pokémon world, and in this video I am going to count down my personal top 5 biggest possibilities for Pokémon on the Nintendo Switch. While all of these are certainly possible if Pokémon does indeed come to the Switch, it is still just a wish list as nothing has been confirmed at this point. With all of that out of the way though, let's go ahead and get started. Number 5 is something that, surprisingly, hasn't really been talked about as a possibility for Pokémon, but it's something that I think would work great, and that is voice acting. Now, voice acting is already possible on the 3DS, but the reason I think it could happen on the Switch is because a release on the Switch would be a huge moment for the Pokémon franchise. They would have so much more power to work with, and I think that Game Freak would like to mark a momentous release like this by producing the most fleshed out and complete Pokémon game to date, similar to what Zelda did with Breath of the Wild. Just like Pokémon, Zelda had never used voice acting in its games before Breath of the Wild, and it was a huge point of controversy amongst the fan base as to whether or not it should happen. Well, Nintendo decided to push the envelope and include voice acting in Breath of the Wild, and it paid off big time. I have not experienced the voice acting from the game itself as it is not out yet at the time of writing this script, but the trailers we have seen with voice acting included have already made this game more immersive than any Zelda before it, and I think the same could be done for Pokémon. Additionally, all the characters in Pokémon games already have voice actors for the anime, so it wouldn't be hard at all for them to simply record some lines for the game as well, which could also be a cool way of connecting the games and anime for marketing purposes. This is something that I would be happy to see in a Pokémon game, and maybe one day it'll actually happen. Coming up next at number 4 is an orchestrated soundtrack. Now, coming from a guy like me, you'd think that this would be higher on the list. However, the reason it isn't is because you can make virtual instruments sound very good and very lifelike, and we experienced this firsthand in Pokémon Sun and Moon. However, that doesn't stop the fact that having an orchestrated soundtrack would finally be possible on the Switch, and would be a must if a game on the Switch happens. Similar to voice acting, an orchestrated soundtrack would bring a level of authenticity to the game that would skyrocket the player's immersion while playing it. Aside from that, Pokémon OSTs are some of the best in all of video games, and it absolutely deserves the orchestrated treatment. We've already seen this happening with the Symphonic Evolutions concert tour, so all that's left is to bring it to the games themselves. Number 3 is an interesting pick that I think would make Pokémon way more fun to play, and that is a level of seamlessness. What this means is essentially getting rid of loading screens and other changes in perspective in order to make the game one big cohesive experience. An example of this would be instead of having random encounters with wild Pokémon and being sent to a battle screen to battle them, the Pokémon could actually traverse the overworld where you could see them as you're traveling. If you get close to one, it will notice you and a battle will instantly begin, and if you want to run away, all you have to do is, well, run away instead of hitting a button and waiting for the game to take you out of the battle. Another feature that could benefit from this is flying. Imagine the soaring mechanic from Oraz, except this time around you get to experience your Pokémon taking you from the ground to the sky and back down to the ground all in one instance without any loading screens. This is something that would definitely be possible with the added power of the Switch, and it would make playing Pokémon an even more incredible experience. This next one is a pretty general pick, and that's simply to add more content to the game. The Switch is obviously able to handle really big games such as Breath of the Wild, and Game Freak could use that capability to fill their next Pokémon game to the absolute brim with content. The first place I'd like to see this additional content is in the form of side quests. We don't really see side quests that often in Pokemon games, which is a shame because side quests are a lot of fun and can take a game from good to great when they're done right. The other place I'd like to see more content is in the post-game. In my opinion, we haven't seen a really great post-game section in Pokemon for a while, and this part of the game, even though it's after the main story, is really important in determining the overall quality of the game, and providing 10, 15, or even 20 hours of gameplay in the post-game would go a long way in making a Pokemon game on the Switch an instant classic. And given that the system is more than capable of this amount of content, it's something that would be very easy to accomplish. Finally, the number one biggest possibility for Pokemon on the Switch that I'd like to see, and I know a lot of other people would like to see, is an open world. Now, some of you might think that it's unlikely, and maybe it is, but it's honestly just a part of the natural progression of the Pokemon franchise. If Game Freak is working with a system like the Switch that has some pretty good power behind it, they simply cannot make Pokemon the same way they've been making it. They've got to go bigger, and an open world style is the perfect fit for Pokemon. One of the main themes of Pokemon has always been going out into the world and going on an adventure, and what better way to illustrate this theme than with an open world setting where players have the freedom to explore. Routes could be larger and more vast, cities could be more complex and have more to offer, and more locations could be placed into the game, which ties back to the more content thing I talked about earlier. It wouldn't have to be so big that you would get lost, but still big enough that the sense of free exploration can be experienced. And if they do want to offer a bigger world, they could always offer multiple regions to explore. Just saying. This has always been a pipe dream of the fanbase to have an open world Pokemon game, and for the first time I think it might actually be a possibility if we get a game on the Switch. And those were what I think are the biggest possibilities for Pokemon on the Nintendo Switch. This console honestly just has so much potential, and it offers so much potential to Pokemon, so I'm really hoping that they take advantage of this potential in the near future. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe for more Pokemon content like this every Tuesday and Saturday. I'll be back with another video soon, and if you'll excuse me, I gotta go get back to playing Breath of the Wild, so until the next one, I'll smell you guys later.